Welcome to another video on music appreciation. Today we're going to be looking at the Renaissance period and the music it was responsible for creating, some of the history behind the Renaissance period, and musical backgrounds as well, particularly for the two songs that we pick especially. So, before we begin on the music portion, we have to start on the background of the Renaissance period itself. It was a period where the revitalization of classical learning took place. It was an era that basically made a rebirth of the medieval music that took place centuries before. And it was also a period of economic, artistic, and cultural historical inventions and discoveries. So, to take this all into consideration, we have to look at what they had to come from. We have to look at what they were trying to do. And as you could see, they're trying to revitalize old songs and old ways of transcribing these songs, but they were trying to do it in a more quote-unquote modern way, as songs that have been remade from like 10, 20, 30 years ago, that's being remade to this day, and still being talked about too. That kind of cultural impact is no exception from any other point of musical history. It's not different from the Baroque or the Classical period, and it's not different from the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period. And that's basically what has taken place for the musical background. But also, historically, it wasn't just the music that was going through this revitalization of medieval music and literature, but it was also painting, sculpting, architecture, books, any kind of literature such as poems or short stories and stuff like that. But it also went under the influences of an increased awareness of nature, a revival of classical learning, as I said, and a more individualistic approach and perspective of man. So they could start to look at themselves more and see that what they're doing is more of a creative way of making music as to their thought process. But not here to judge them, but this is just how they were thinking, how they thought through things, and how they comprehended the things that were going on around them. Even scholars no longer believed that the Renaissance period marked an abrupt break with medieval values. Even the French World Renaissance has historical sources that suggest interest in nature, humanistic learning, and individualism, and were already in the late medieval period and became dominant around the 15th and 16th century, basically the later years in the Renaissance period. And there's some other things that we have to go over as well. It's more into like events that took place after, during, and before the Renaissance period. So I'll kind of read them out to you a little bit. You have events such as the ending of the Black Death, which lasted for hundreds of years and took place in Europe. You had the increased trade of Asia and other regions as a result of the Crusades. That would be the Holy Crusades from Jerusalem. They increased their desire for scientific and technical knowledge. They also had renewed interest in the classical learning, which is the third time I've said this, but, you know, it's something to point out. But not just that, it was also for Greece and for Rome. It wasn't just medieval times in general. It was specifically for Greece and Rome. The rise of rich and powerful merchants who became patrons of the arts, such as the Medici family in Florence, Italy. And Italy was basically at the forefront of all of this Renaissance music, culture, everything else that took place as well, but mostly in music. It even had its own proto-Renaissance. I want to say the late 13th century. Late 13th century. You could even say early 14th century, but people have discussed that back and forth almost all the time. You could even say that with the Renaissance period as it's being reviewed as today, it could be even described as like more flavorful in some people's eyes, but that's their opinions and they're allowed to have those opinions. You even had well-known geniuses of that, such as Leonardo da Vinci, Galileo, Geoffrey Chaucer, John Milton, William Shakespeare, and Michelangelo. Now, these people are mostly known for making sculptures, painting, or creating kind of plays in literature. Most of these are not really related to music, but these are notable names that have to be said because they had important impacts in society, and that impact has still been translated to the modern day of this age from thousands of years ago. And to name a few more things, you have art, architecture, and science were all closely linked during the Renaissance period because they were so in tune with what was going on with everything. They could actually connect the dots with each other and make it seem like it's one subject, one topic. It didn't even have to be individual topics at once, such as art, architecture, science, literature. It could all be interconnected. That was the unique thing about the Renaissance period. Everything seemed to be closely linked to one another. Humanism encouraged Europeans to question the role of the Roman Catholic Church. Obviously, the role of the church itself not only was being challenged, but it also gave Europeans the idea that some of their teachings weren't as valued as they should be, because some different versions of how they were taught of Christianity through Catholicism was not lining up with what the Catholics had to say. This is a prime example when a man named Martin Luther would make his own statement called the 95 Theses that challenged the Catholic Church's authority and questioned their teachings to the rest of the world. And that is the best example of that happening. Obviously, you had many other instances in the Renaissance period where this would take place, but considering that this is the best example, you can see that it had greater effect because Martin Luther was the only person that would not face prosecution and executed due to him having guards around him all the time. And increased learning meant that 95% of the world population would not be illiterate, except it'd only be down to maybe like, I want to say, down to 75, 70%, maybe 65%, because that's really when art and reading and learning how to write took place, and really increased everyone's intelligence to a new level that everyone thought was unreachable. Like it could not be reached, or could not be sustained, or it couldn't have any kind of good effect. But as history has proven to surprise us, we are wrong time and time again, and we need to keep challenging ourselves to keep the foundation of doing new things in our daily lives. So that is all the music background and historical background that I'm giving to you. The two songs that I picked were, and one of them I actually do like because I remember listening to it as like almost like a Christmas song, I believe it was. Yes, it is called Green Sleeves. It is made by Sharon Lindo and Matthew Spring. Some of the background of the song is that, like all Christmas carols, it focuses mostly on major events from the Christmas story, which is when the birth of Christ took place and everyone in the Middle East wanted to see this new baby be born, who is supposed to be the proclaimed Son of God, and who is also the Messiah. The original melody for Greensleeves isn't religious or spiritual in nature. It's all about a painful romantic conundrum and includes what some historians view as subtly salacious lyrics. And then you have legends around it, such as Henry VIII, who is said to have written it for Anne Boleyn, the woman he would ultimately marry, but also execute. However, in Angel Song, Medieval English Music and History, author Lisa Colton writes that this associate is erroneous, as the song most likely originated during the reign of Queen Elizabeth. The lyrics itself deal with a spurned lover accusing Lady Greensleeves, as the name of the song, of casting him off, and despite the fact that he loved her, paid for her lodgings, and bought her a petticoat, a pearl-backed gown, and a jeweled necklace. The song's scandalous twist is hidden in its very title. So, it's not really a song that would be seen as a holy matrimony, or even like a Christmas song in nature. However, the lyrics do suggest that it does, which can be very misleading for any kind of literature, for any kind of book or song or something that would make you feel like, oh, this sounds really good. I like this message that it's saying. But when you really dive deep into it, it says a completely different story. Green wasn't necessarily an innocuous color in early modern English society. According to Women's Roles in a Renaissance, the phrase "a green gown" denoted promiscuous behavior, namely, getting grass stains on your dress while engaging in amorous activities outdoors. Authors Meg Brown and Kari McBride speculate the term greensleeves may even refer to a prostitute. But in the exact meaning of the song has been debated for centuries. In Roll Me in Your Arms, Unprintable Ozark Folk Songs and Folklore, Vance Randolph suggests the singer might have assumed Lady Greensleeves was a prostitute, given her green dress. According to this school of thought, the singer was mistaken and Lady Greensleeves took offense at his assumption. Now, with all that being said, it's very contradicting to how what you just heard is related to anything that would be Christmas or even holy, or that would be sang in like a church for a play or some sort of activity. It's kind of very misleading. But there are different versions of this too. The one that I chose is originally made from Sharon Lindo and Matthew Springer. Now this one is the instrumental version. Now the second song that I have picked is called Campen at the Feast at Calais. The reason why I picked this song is because it was also considered to be a dance song. However, the pronunciation of it is a little bit different. It translates from France to low dance. Courtly dance for couples originating in 14th century Italy and fashionable in many varieties for 2 centuries. The name's also to be attributed to both as a peasant or a lower class person, and its style of dancing of small gliding steps to which the feet would remain close to the ground. They would barely even lift it up the ground sometimes. And they would also dance by holding hands with one another. So they would keep low, they would hold hands together, and it was mostly accommodated as like a peasant kind of dance. But despite the name, people still have enjoyed it. Holding couples in a column, it was performed with various combinations of small bows and a series of walking steps completed by drawing the back foot up to the leading foot. The music itself was in more of a modern equivalent to 12 by 8 time. The Basset dance was typically followed by its after dance, Saltarello. Sorry if I butchered the pronunciation again. But that is the reason why I picked those 2 songs, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you take care. I'll see you later.